Hello, today we're going to be discussing minerals and longevity. I'm going to start by introducing myself. I'm someone who, for the last 3 years, has dedicated his time into research on mitochondrial restoration, biophotons, quantum health, circadian alignment, and solar nutrition. I have been fascinated with raising questions on what causes disease, why disease is so prevalent in a society where medicine is developed, and also to the relationship between disease and dissociating with nature. So, there are 90 essential nutrients which all living beings need in order to live optimally. Of these 90 essential nutrients, there are 60 essential minerals, 16 essential vitamins, 12 essential amino acids, and 3 essential fatty acids. Many of these you guys are probably familiar with, and I'd like to add one more essential fatty acid, and that is cholesterol. Cholesterol is a steroid. Cholesterol, sterol meaning steroid. Although our liver naturally produces cholesterol every day, it is essential for our nervous system to run and for our bodily functions to operate. The importance of cholesterol is huge. Cholesterol is needed to synthesize vitamin D from the sun's rays. With low cholesterol in the body, one cannot synthesize vitamin D and will most likely burn in the sun. And that will lead to skin cancer and other complications. Cholesterol also helps the liver produce bile salts, which are needed for the digestion and breakdown of fats. Bile salts also convert food pH from acidic to alkaline in order to continue with the digestion process. Without bile salts, one cannot digest fats, and also for people who have removed their gallbladder, they must permanently be on bile supplements for the rest of their lives, or else they cannot digest fats and will have loose stools or constipation. So, question arises, are we getting the 90 essential nutrients through our modern diets? Unfortunately, the answer is no. And there are many reasons for this. One of them being our poor soil and water quality. So our ancestors originally used to grow crops using mineral-rich soil. This soil was essentially compost made up of dead plant and animal matter, human and animal manure, and basically all the waste that would have originally gone into the trash, they compiled everything together, and this led to the decomposition and creation of this mineral-rich mud-like soil. This rich soil was rich in microbes, in soil-based organisms, in living creatures such as worms and bugs. And all of this contributes to healthy, strong crops. Plants are living beings, and these plants utilize the minerals in the soil and convert it into vitamins which we then obtain through consuming these plants. So basically, if the soil is lacking nutrients, so are the plants that we consume. And unfortunately, we have left behind this practice of utilizing compost for agricultural means in order to feed a larger population. We have shifted towards utilizing NPK fertilizers. NPK standing for nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. This fertilizer is made up of 3 nutrients out of the 90, which is not enough. And also it's lacking diversity of microbes and organisms, and the fertilizer leads to weak end products, weak crops, which cannot fight off pests and bugs and critters on its own. Therefore, a need for pesticides and herbicides, which are troublesome in themselves. These herbicides and pesticides lead to many complications, ranging from endocrine damaging results, and cancer causing compounds to be ingested, and also they wipe out the microflora in the gut. Also, the water in which we consume and water our plants with today is stripped of minerals. The water we use today is chlorinated unnaturally and contains many toxic byproducts, ranging from pharmaceutical drugs to calcium fluoride to herbicides and pesticides and many other harmful compounds. The water is essentially dead. Dead water is water that is not flowing like nature intended it to. Water which our ancestors consumed was directly obtained from springs, wells, and rivers. This water was rich in minerals like magnesium, sodium, chloride, and many other nutrients as well. This water was referred to as glacial milk because the water was murky and white in color due to its high mineral profile. The water was also flowing. It was flowing down mountains and flowing down stones, and this moving water led to the progression into the 4th phase, which is known as the easy phase or the structured phase, crystalline phase of water. This crystalline phase was essentially moving the water particles in a vortex figure of 8 sequence, and that causes the water to hydrate our mitochondrial cells more efficiently, because it makes the water particles smaller than they are. And this easy water is what has known in our bodies as the cytoplasm, which is within our cell membranes. This gel-like coherent water is the foundation of life. Without it, blood could not flow through our bodies, circulation would be obstructed, and hydration would be unheard of. Next, we get into monocrop agriculture. So as I mentioned, the shift towards using fertilizers meant that different crops could no longer be grown alongside each other because they were not strong enough to fight off external microbes and frequencies that would be exchanged. And this led to monocrop agriculture, which means the need, which leads to the need for growing single crops per acre of land. And this damages the ecosystem as it strips the growth and home for microorganisms which live in the soil, because with a lack of biodiversity and a lack of enzymes and microbes, life cannot be sustained, therefore damaging the ecosystem. With this in mind and the need to feed a larger population came the Industrial Revolution and the processing of food and food-like products, which are known as snacks today. This processing of wheat and grains has led to many diseases because these grains are bleached with chlorine and many petroleum-based solvents, which strip all the nutrients out of the grain and lead to cheap byproducts, which we now know as white flour, white sugar, and refined grains, along with whole grains, which were a minimal part of the ancestral diet. Imbalanced diets have increased and become more prominent over the years due to convenience and affordability of cheap industrialized products that we are constantly being fed and are being sold in supermarkets. The standard American diet heavily relies on whole grains and processed sugar and processed meats, which are all void of enzymes and void of nutrients and are instead compensated for with the addition of fortified inorganic vitamins and minerals which our body cannot absorb and utilize correctly. Our ancestors consumed nutrient-rich foods, and their diets primarily relied on animal products, especially animal fats and organs. Our ancestors ate from nose to tail, meaning they did not waste any part of the animal. They would use the ears in soups. They would eat the organs either raw or cooked. They would use the bones to make rich broths. They would use the bones to also create bone meal, which is ground up bone into a fine like powder, and they would fortify their foods naturally by incorporating this bone meal so that they could increase the calcium in the food that they were eating. Also, they used to use broken down plant matter and wood as a fuel source to cook their food. And in doing so, they would strip the plant matter from carbon, and the end product would be wood ash. This wood ash is a concentrated powder, white powder, that is primarily made up of ionic plant-derived minerals. Being extremely rich in minerals, they then incorporated this in their soups and in their breads. Bread originally consisted of nutrient-rich ingredients. It was composed of 1/3 a cup of organic hand-milled whole grain wheat, water, rich glacial water, wood ash, bone meal, real salt, and some eggs. This is nothing compared to our modern bread that consists of bleached white flour, sugar, water, and salt, lacking nutrients while being high in toxic byproducts and chemicals and anti-nutrients like phytic acid. We are left with a disease infested and malnourished population. So why does any of this matter? Why does it matter if we eat a nutrient-rich diet like our ancestors, or if we eat the standard American diet? Well, as I mentioned before, it would be physically impossible to obtain the same amount of nutrients as our ancestors did simply through the diet. It would take 4 apples today to get the same nutrition as 1 apple in the past. And that is solely due to the fact that our soil is nutrient deficient. So a nutrient deficiency leads to over 900 diseases. Every single bodily process and function requires 90 essential nutrients. All these nutrients work in symbiosis or eubiosis to create balance and to operate correctly. You can see here in this diagram that many illnesses such as blood sugar imbalances, like anxiety, bipolar disorder, cardiovascular disease, diabetes, calcium deficiencies like back pain, arthritis, high and low blood pressure, night sweats, digestive disorders, Crohn's disease, constipation, heart disease, acne, blood clots, all of these are essentially caused by nutrient deficiencies. So for one to understand nutrients and their importance, we must understand how they are metabolized by the body and how they work in conjunction with one another to create eubiosis. Eubiosis meaning balance within the microbiome, which makes up every living being. We are essentially composed of 1 trillion microbiotic cells. We are more bacteria than we are human. As crazy as it sounds, that is the true nature of our complex physiology. So, vitamin A, retinol, being the form of vitamin A obtained through animal products. Beta carotene, on the other hand, is found in plant products like carrots and sweet potatoes. Retinol is more bioavailable to our body, meaning we can utilize it better compared to its counterpart. Vitamin A or retinol requires zinc to be utilized by the body. Vitamin A, D, E, and K are all fat-soluble nutrients, meaning they require fat or cholesterol to be absorbed and utilized. Vitamin C regulates iron and regenerates vitamin E. When there is an imbalance of iron to vitamin C or iron to copper, we are left with what many refer to as anemia, or anemia and oxidation. Anemia is not what your doctor told you it is. Your doctor puts you on an iron supplement when the test result shows up being low iron. That is not correct. Low iron tests do not mean anything. They do not mean that you're low in iron. What it means is that the iron is not being absorbed into the blood vessels and is not being utilized to create hemoglobin. Iron cannot be absorbed without copper and without vitamin C and without vitamin E. Therefore, inorganic supplements and fortification of iron is toxic to the body. Iron is found in animal products, therefore one should not worry about iron and instead focus on things that are more important towards achieving symbiosis. Vitamin D is the same as iron. It is a hormone. Vitamin D is found in the liver. The blood tests mean nothing. The blood tests do not prove low vitamin D levels. They are flawed and are overvalued. Or sorry, they are undervalued. Vitamin D is naturally produced by the liver when cholesterol is available in the body. And vitamin D is obtained through the sun, through the sunlight. If you get 10 minutes of sunlight directly on your skin before 12 p.m., you do not have to worry about producing vitamin D. Vitamin D requires magnesium, calcium, and vitamins A and K in order to be utilized. So supplementing vitamin D will tank magnesium and calcium and vitamin A and K in your body. So it should be avoided at all costs. Vitamin K has different forms. There's K1 and K2. And these are found in aged cheeses like Gouda and fermented soy like natto. And vitamin K is extremely important for bone and jaw structure and joint health as well. Vitamin E regulates iron and is an antioxidant, meaning it negates the oxygen created in the cells. Vitamin E also requires vitamins A, D, and K as they work in conjunction. Vitamin K regulates calcium and vitamins A and D. Potassium requires magnesium and regulates sodium and helps with calcium reabsorption as well. Potassium is found in citrus fruits, russet potatoes, fruit juices, dairy products, more specifically raw dairy products, and is extremely important as well. As potassium, it relaxes the muscles. Magnesium helps with B vitamin absorption, all the B vitamins, 1 through 12. Magnesium also relaxes muscles and reduces anxiety and helps with sleep as well. Calcium must remain at a 2-to-1 ratio with phosphorus and magnesium. Calcium supplements and fortification of inorganic calcium does more harm than good. Calcium, without its counterparts, cannot be absorbed by the body. It cannot get to the bones and the joints and the ligaments where it should be. What that causes is a disease called calcification, which is the hardening of tissues and arteries and the increase of plaque and the result of osteoporosis, the breaking down of bones, which is terrible. Therefore, calcium is best obtained through consumption of bone meal. Bone meal, which can be found on heartandsoils.com. They have a supplement called the Bone Matrix, which is really great. Also, dairy has a good amount of calcium, although it's not as high as it should be. Copper requires retinol and vitamin C, and it also regulates iron. Copper is extremely important. Copper is responsible for almost 300 enzymatic processes in the body. Copper needs ceruloplasmin, which is a protein, in order to be utilized in the body and in order to get iron into the blood cells. Copper is best obtained through food. Beef liver, bee pollen, and maple syrup are some great sources of copper. Beef liver being the highest known food source of copper. All you need is 8 ounces of beef liver per week, which is like 230 grams, and that's quite frankly pretty low. So a little can go a long way when it comes to consuming liver. Lastly, we have selenium. Selenium is an antioxidant. It regulates iodine, which is responsible for the thyroid hormone and for metabolism, along with copper. Selenium and copper must be balanced. So in order to obtain selenium, one may, not should, you have the choice to do whatever you want. One may choose to consume seafood and also sprouted organic Brazil nuts. 3 Brazil nuts will get you at the daily recommended intake for selenium. So 3 Brazil nuts a day can go a long way. So now that we know how these nutrients work together and how they lead to radical health in the body and how responsible they are for certain functions and prevention of diseases, we need to understand how we can maintain eubiosis, meaning balance. So things that one may choose to do in order to maintain this, maybe supplementing cod liver oil. Cod liver oil is an ancient healing remedy which our ancestors prioritized on a daily basis. They used to cold press manually wild cod livers and use this oil daily in order to maintain heart, brain, bone and jaw and ligament health. Cod liver oil is an amazing source of retinol and vitamin D, along with EPA and DHA, essential fatty acids. Rosita's brand has the best form of cod liver oil, which is closely resembling the ancient extraction method. And just 1 teaspoon gets you at your daily recommended intake for retinol. Next, if we want to maintain health and balance, we should strive to eat nose to tail like our ancestors. By doing so, we avoid any imbalances in inflammatory amino acids, which are found in muscle meats, and not found in other cuts of meat. The anti-inflammatory amino acids, glycine, gelatin, lysine, these anti-inflammatory amino acids are essential for creating the master antioxidant glutathione in the body. This prevents oxidative stress and free radical formation, which leads to many diseases, such as cancer and fibrosis and fatty liver disease, along with Alzheimer's and heart disease as well. So consuming bone broth on a regular basis, along with gelatinous cuts of meat on the bone, chicken skin, oxtail, chicken wings, organ meats, egg yolks, all these, the wider and more diverse amino acids that you obtain from your diet, the better off you will be. It's not about overconsumption of these foods. It's about getting diversity in your diet. When you eat nose to tail, you prevent an imbalance of calcium to phosphorus and copper to iron. Majority of Americans have an imbalance of iron to copper and phosphorus to calcium. Calcium should be at a 2-to-1 ratio to phosphorus, and this cannot be obtained through the diet if one does not regularly consume bone meal and organ meats. Next, we have seafood. Eating seafood is extremely beneficial for obtaining ionic minerals from the sea, such as selenium, zinc, and iodine. Seafood is a great source of selenium and also brings diversity into the diet. Seafood is nourishing to the cytoplasm of our mitochondria, as it contains structured water, especially when it's in its raw form. So raw seafood, most preferably wild seafood, flash frozen to avoid any potential pathogens or parasites, is extremely healing to the body. So to avoid dysbiosis, one should avoid ascorbic acid, vitamin D, iron, fish, krill, and flax oil at all costs. All these supplements do is cause an imbalance. Ascorbic acid literally tanks your copper levels and increases the amount of free-flowing iron that you have in your body, leading to an array of diseases. Fish, krill, and flax oil are all isolated sources of omega-3s. Omega-3s and 6s are polyunsaturated fats, meaning they are unstable. Unsaturated meaning unstable. This instability means that the fat is prone to oxidative stress and prone to rancidification. This, when consumed, hardens in the body and essentially causes the tissues to turn brown and yellow and lead to a disease called lipofuscin or fatty liver. Clogged arteries, non-alcoholic fatty liver disease, Alzheimer's, Parkinson's, high blood sugar, all of this is caused by hardening of polyunsaturated fats. So in order to avoid that, get your essential fatty acids, omegas 3, 6, and 9s through the diet, as they contain balancing cofactors when obtained naturally. One may choose to supplement with vitamin E and K to prevent oxidative stress and to protect joints, ligaments, and bones, and also increase production of antioxidants in the body. Next, a very important practice of mine is to liberally use real salt throughout the day. Salting your food so that you can taste it, salting your filtered water to increase its mineral profile. This is all important things that frankly everyone should incorporate in their diets. Salt is important in regulating easy water in the cells, and also in increasing stomach acid or hydrochloric acid needed to break down food and to digest food properly. Without high stomach acid, you will not digest the nutrients in your food. You will essentially have malabsorption problems, become nutrient deficient, underweight, and also that can also lead to digestive issues like leaky gut, because when your stomach acid is not strong enough, it cannot fight off pathogens and yeasts and harmful organisms that may grow as a result of a weakened digestive system. So, sorry, potassium is best acquired through food sources. Depending on your latitude and the season in which you're in, you can choose to incorporate some of these foods I mentioned here. You may also choose to supplement fulvic and humic acid and Himalayan shilajit resin. These are all great sources of ionic plant-derived minerals. Remember the wood ash that we mentioned earlier? In today's world, that would be impossible to replicate, and frankly, that would be harmful to the ecosystem, because you would need to constantly burn plant matter all day long to obtain the same mineral profile as your ancestors. Instead, you can just choose to supplement what I've mentioned, and not only will that cost you money, not only will that be cheaper for you, but it will also save you the headache. Yeah, and lastly, one may also choose to supplement with whey derived from grass-fed goat milk, and electrolytes like magnesium, potassium, silica, and sodium. Also, taking magnesium baths or applying magnesium topically in the form of magnesium chloride are great ways to increase your, your magnesium intake and to relieve stress and just remain grounded. That's all. I hope this video is helpful, and if there are any questions, leave them down in the comment section, and also make sure to check out the description on this video, as I'll mention two really important doctors and knowledgeable figures who inspired me to make this video, as they go into more depth on the topics that I mentioned. So yeah, thank you, and I hope all of you can achieve eubiosis and balance and strive to reach radical health and well-being.